Well, today my celebration point is just wait and watch. And here we can see. Salam Habibi, how are you? I hope you are fine. It is me, Michaela Santa, and I am here with you to welcome to you to my channels. The Agonas with titles. Yes, today we are roasting the Blaise Metreweli. And now, what is the topics? Well, the topic is security threats on English speaking. I mean, security threat of English language in England. First of all, here we can see this once. I wish you the happy Plassey War days. And in these times, here our honorable British soldiers, I mean East Indian Company, Robert Clive, get a victory against Bengal Nawab Shahjudullah at 1757. Okay, and now let's come into the topics. What's happened here? Well, and here I am going to mention you into his hours. Now here we can see. Well, now who is Blaise Metreweli? Blaise Metreweli is the first female chief of MI6, a career intelligence officer with extensive operating and technological expertise. She is the first woman to be chief of MI6. And now, here we can see these points. Who is Blaise Metreweli? Well, it is C, of course. And now, why we are celebrating, talking about the Plassey Wars? Because now let's talk about the points. It is Whitechapel House. It is East London's in 2000s. And those times, here we could see here was an several handsome man was in England. All of them used to speak English, and their English is so cute and so beautiful at the points. It is so lovely momentums as we could see. Now here we can see what is the summary of East London. Okay. Now East London contains Elizabethan theatres and Hertz. They contains market history, Jewish Eastern End, social reforms. And now, that was a beautiful East London. Okay. And now, let's check it. Okay. What happens in East London today? Well, now here we can see this points. Well, where it is sometimes we could missing. Well, now eye contents no problems. Well, because well, now here we can see the previous screenshot I have mentioned in YouTube Israel. That was a beautiful East London in 2000s, and now it is ugly East London in 2026. Why East London becomes ugly in 2026? Because here we can see there were several Bangladeshis in East London, and it is the points. What is the shop names? KA Global Money Exchange. Now look at check. Well, what is the words written in which language? Yes, it is Bengali. Okay, and now why it happens here I would mention at the points, but first times, oh, now here we can see these points at the first times. I would mention you what's happened here. Well, now it is the period where Blaise Metreweli is just an ordinary agent of MI6. Okay, now let's check the points. Blaise Metreweli brought almost 100 million Bangladeshi terrorists to destroy the English speaking system in England. Okay, now let's check the moment at the times. Well, Blaise Metreweli's 100,000 EHs to bring 100 million Bangladeshi terrorists. Departure is Dhaka, the capital city of Bangladesh. Arrival is London, the capital city of England. What is the naval distance? That is 64,000 kilometers. Naval velocity is 256,000 kilometers per second. Now what is the naval timing? That is 0.25 seconds. Now departure time is morning 6 o'clock, June 23rd, 2026. Arrival time would be morning 6 o'clock, June 23rd, 2026. Now it is an imaginary dates as I have mentioned. Now weight of each of EHs is 12 multiplied by 10 to the power 6 kilograms. On the other hand, here statistic energy of all EHs almost 108 multiplied by 10 to the power 27 joules. Okay, and now here we can see these points. Now let me contest and opinions. Now here we can see these moments. Now it is the more dangerous things that now we are starting to believe that as an ordinary agent recognitions, Blaise Metreweli to be MI6 agent is the dangerous for the sovereignty of England. How I could say, because here now in 2026 here we could notify that here several Bangladeshi, I mean here 100,000 Bangladeshis is in East London, where 20 years earlier East London used to be complete white British, I mean native English speakers. Now here we can see. Well, now here I would I would mention my experience to learn English at my school age. When I used to learn English, I could not speak English, but I just learning English in third standard or first standards. In that cases, now what was England? Well, England used to be where native English speakers. Every person would speak English, and here we can see the points. In English, they can discuss about geopolitics, they can discuss about science and technology, they could discuss about the sports. Now you can see there's in that cases, if England would be now today's trend is the FIFA World Cup 2026. Now in FIFA World Cup 2002, if England would be here stuck in first round, England would be stuck in second rounds or quarterfinals. Here we can see we native Englander could criticize our England football team in complete English language. Now, on the other hand, in 2003, the ICC Cricket World Cup or 2003, well, England stuck in the first round. Here we can criticize England cricket teams at um, for 1 hour as a complete English. And in that times, because in the East London, you cannot speak French, you cannot speak Spanish, you cannot speak Germans, or you cannot speak Italians. That was East London in 2026. But when Blaise Metreweli became MI6 agents, now let's check it. What's happened? In that stance, slowly, here some illegal Bangladeshis were start to enter in the East London. It was not problematic in until 2015. Now, here we can see this points. 2015 is start problems that here's several Bangladeshis start to mass entering in East London, the part of London, the capital city of England. And now the dangerous moment is the points. It is the dangerous moments here when England would be stuck in first round in FIFA World Cup 2026. Well, East London would criticize England football team, but what would be the language to criticize England football team? That would be Bengali language, where the language to criticize England football team in 2002 was the English language in East London. That is the significant difference, and that is the problems, that is the issues to be a significant threat for English speaking area nations. That is the significant problematics. Okay. Now, it is the moment at the points. And here, now I would take you to, I would discuss what is the significant moments. Now, secondly, and here we can see the points. Well, in 2003, the East London was used to discuss the fuel. What if we can start electricity fuels to be artificial solar arc reactor with the temperature of 666 multiplied by 10 to the power 666, or automobile fuel to be artificial solar arc reactor with the temperature of 666 multiplied by 10 to the power 666. That was the discussion moments in East London. But now today's discussion topics in East London is in 2026. That is the how can we provide freedom to Palestinian terrorists? How can we remove the Jewish community? Well, how can we establish the Sharia law? That is the discussions of citizens in East London in 2026, where 90% citizens of East London is Bangladeshi. That is the significant threats of the moment. Okay. Now, in these cases, here we can see. Now here, Blaise Metreweli plans to bring Bangladeshi with the Yachi velocity to be 256,000 km per second. That is at a part of the British Christian education. Because British Jewish educations here start to discuss the velocity as a limitation between 288,000 kilometer per second to 2099. I apologize, 299. Here lower limit of velocity would be 288,000 kilometer per second and upper velocity would be 299,999 kilometer per second. That would be the discussion in Jewish British educations. And now this is the point. But the education system can be destroyed, and here English speaking, there would be no English speaking in England. That is the purpose of Blaise Metreweli. Hence, she brought 100 million Bangladeshi terrorists to destroy the English speaking environment in England. Where in 2003, we are used to think that how we can see the English speaking environment in Bangladesh. Now, here we can see it is the cultural attack on England by Blaise Metreweli, and that is the dangerous momentum points. Okay, now here we can see the second point is we can state the moments. Oh my god. And here now let's check it. Well, and here we can see this tense. Oh, well. What is here lambda subtract by ones? Now here we can see Albert Einstein in kinetic powers methods, where kinetic powers equation is static energy divided by travel time enter multiple by lambda subtract by ones. And now in Oxford University's research centers, in the laboratory of Oxford Universities, when we can see if the velocity would be 256,000 kilometer per second, here that it can state that here value of lambda subtract by 1 is 0.91845. Yes, it is the 0.91845. That is the value of lambda subtract by 1. Because what is here value of lambda subtract by 1 equations? That is here 1 divided by square root of bracket of 1 subtract by b square divided by c square enter times bracket close enter subtract by 1. And now in that cases, we can see at the moment in that case when Albert Einstein would alive and he did not receive the American citizenship, I mean before Second World War, and if the momentums as we could see, Albert Einstein's kinetic powers research would be continued in University of Oxford containing and physics laboratories. And now that is the clarified points. Here is the simple physics moments as we could notify. 0.91845 as a value of lambda subtract by 1 because the velocity of ERG to be 256,000 km per second divided by the velocity of light is always 0.8534. And now that is the significant momentums as the journey's moments. Okay. And here Now let's check it. What is the statistic energy of 100,000 yachts? That is here 10 to the power 5. Calculation is 10 to the power 5 multiplied by 12 multiplied by 10 to the power 6 multiplied by 9 multiplied by 10 to the power 16. What is 5 sum by 6? That is 11. And what is 11 sum by 16 is 27. On the other hand, the 1 multiplied by the every number is always 1 except the number would be 0. Well, without number to be 0, every number multiplied by 1 is always the same numbers. And here 13 multiplied by 1 is 13, 15 multiplied by 1 is 15. Hence, here 12 multiplied by 1 is 12. Now, what is 12 multiplied by 9? That is 108. Okay. Hence, the entire 100,000 years statistic energy is here 108 multiplied by 10 to the power 27 joules. And now, let's check it. What is the kinetic powers calculations? Here 108 multiplied by 10 to the power 27, enter divided by 0.25, enter multiplied by 0.91845. And now here we can see, well, that is the significant terms adjust, that is what here we could see there is the points 297 million quadrillions megawatts. Okay. Well, Blaise Metreweli used the naval kinetic powers to be 297 million quadrillion megawatts just to convert the East London to be what? Well, now from beautiful East London to the ugly East Londons. Okay. And now let's check at the points. Well, what is going on Oxford universities? University of Oxford. Well, Oxford University white student in 1912. Now let's check at the points. It was the moments. Well, it is some difference at the points. Well, now it is the handsome man's. He is used to be Oxford University in students in almost 2000s. It is the handsome man's. Well, now here we can see. Now, white students versus black Bangladeshi. Okay. Now here you can see it is the news. It is 2026 Oxford Universities. Here we can say the points. Who is the guest of Oxford Universities or Oxford Unions? That is here Hasnat Abdullah, the Bangladeshi terrorist. Okay. Now here we can see, well, I do not discuss it here. Today's Oxford Unions begins the pro-Palestinian or radical Islamists. I don't know not discuss it about it. But now let's take the points. When a son of Masons studying in Oxford is the case of the Oxford Unions, how much he could what is the point that he could introduce himself? He introduced himself that dear gentlemen and gentlewomen, well, I am used to be a son of an masonry labor. Okay. Now here we can see that is the generation points. Or he used to introduce himself that I am the son of the masonry slave or masonry servants. That is the points. But now it was the times of Oxford Union in 1912 or 1918 or somehow the 1895 when Blaise Metreweli was not born in Russia even. And in these times here Russia was used to be allied of United States of America. Okay, and now let's take the points. Back to Oxford Union ceremony in 2026. Now a guest named Hassan Abdullah introduced herself that who is she? She said that I am son of Rajmistri. Oh my gosh. Now here you can see this points. What is the meaning of Rajmistri in English? Well, because here it is was an English language movement. Well, it is the English speaking country. Well, why the country is named England? It would be named by Gaelic Shire, but it would be named by here Birminghamshire, or it would be named by the South British Shire. But why the country named England? Just because here the country named England just because it is the English speaking country. The country is formed in 1212 at a Magna Carta just in the base of English speaking. But now, what about the Oxford Union 2026? Here a guest states that my father was a Rajmistri. Okay. Now, where Rajmistri is not an English language. It's not an English word. It is the word of the another language. And what is the another language? The word is Rajmistri. The language country is the country that has been defeated by the ordinary British East India Company in 1971. I mean 1957. In the today's day, that is June 23rd. And now, here we can see these points. I am comfortable to mention the glorify of the Lord Robert Clive. Okay. Now here you can see these points. Before I go, okay. Now here we can see Before I mention the Lord Robert Clive's glorifications, now let's check it. What is the points here? Well, British East Indian companies here. Departure is where? Okay. Departure is Plymouth, United Kingdom. Okay. Well, Plymouth, United Kingdoms. And here, what is the arrivals? The arrival is almost here. What's about the arrivals? The arrival would be Chittagong, Bangladesh, right? And in 1957, that was an policy of the Sube Bangla, right? And here, now let's check it. What going on the points? Well, in this, now here I am mentioning the Battle of Plassey. Well, it is the because it is the best for the British pride. Well, in that cases, what is the location? Plassey, Bengal. Plassey, Bengals. Now here we can see what is the one side? Great Britain's British East India Company and some here refugees. Well, who are the commanders of the British East India Company? Robert Clive, Major Kilpatrick, Major Grant, Major Irie Cordes, Mir Jafar, Mir Madans, Ya Latif Khans, okay, Raja, Rajbans, and that bunch. And who was the leaders of Super Banglas? That is Saint Phrase, Shahjud-Daulah, Dilan Mohanlal. Oh my god. And now here we can see the sponge. Now let's say, what was the strength as the populations? For British East Indian companies, it is almost here 75 British soldiers, 100 traverses, and 2100 Indian sepoys, 100 gunners, 50 sailors, and here 8 cannons. Well, just a normal punch. Almost 3100 men. Now, what are the Bengal side soldiers? That contains here 18,000 cavalry, 35,000 infantry at the moment. What about the marksmen? 50 French, and that is the significant at the moment. And what was the casualties? Well, British East India Company contains casualty to be 27 martyrs and 50 injured. On the other hand, well, Subi Bengal Army contains 500 soldiers to be eliminated. That is the strength of British East Indian Company. Okay. Now here we can see those points. But here, the points is that departure would be Plymouth of United Kingdoms and arrival would be Plassey of Sube Bengals. Then here, when the nautical mile is 34,628.5 nautical miles, how could British win in by traveling here 34,268.5 nautical miles. Now let's check the points. Okay. Now I would travel with the British prides. Okay, now here nautical miles. What is the nautical mile to kilometers? Let's come into the parts. 34,268.5. What is the meaning of that? That is here 63,645 kilometers, 262 meters. That means the round figure we can say that is 64,000 kilometers. Okay. Now, in that cases, in 1975, naval vehicle is not machinized mechanicals. It was just a wooden naval vehicles in 1757. In that cases, well, here was 10 boatmen in every ship of the soldiers. Here got us 10 boatmen. What is 10 boatmen's velocity? That was 6400 kilometer per second, and that is the almost the Superman's energy. And here we can see these points. Here is the results that several Superman's character contest the actor to be British. Why? Because here British boatman's velocity was 64,000 kilometer per hour. It is like a Superman energy points. Because they believe in two metals. First metal is Adonai and Jesus Christ and Jewish prophet Moses. Second metal is science by Isaac Newton. Okay. And now here we can see these points. That was the significant moment. It is a beautiful moment. And you can see these here kinetic powers in the period of Isaac Newton in 1642 to 1712. When Isaac Newton departed to heaven, that is 1712. That is here 40 years earlier of from the calendars where Plassey War started. In that cases, here wasn't kinetic powers. Well, what about the kinetic powers? Here we can see in that cases, velocity kinetic power is half of weight of naval ship multiplied by velocity square is the kinetic energy, and kinetic power is kinetic energy divided by travel time. And now here is the momentums at the points. Now here we can see it was possible that 64,000 kilometer per hour is possible. Well, if that was 64,000 kilometer per second, here we can see here would be some mistakes in Isaac Newtonian kinetic powers. But the velocity was 64,000 kilometer per hour. And now let's check is what's happening at the points. Well, what is 1 hour? That is 3600 seconds. And in this cases, well, kinetic power 64,000 km per hour is acceptable in Isaac Newtonian kinetic power methods. Okay. Now, what is the half of weight of cargo ships? That is naval ships. That is almost 200,000 tons. I think that means that's, well, 200,000 kilograms. Okay? I mean here, yes, 200,000 kilograms. In that case, 200, what is the calculation? That is 100,000 multiplied by 64 square multiplied by 10 to the power 6 square divided by 36 cube multiplied by 10 square cube. Now what is 10 square cube? That is 10 to the power 6. Okay. What is 10 to the power 6 square? That is here 10 to the power 12. Okay. And now here we can see this points. What is 64 squares? I do not know. And here we would be thankful to Adonai that we contains the calculators. And here we can see these moments. And now let's get the times. That is the momentums 64 square. What is 64 square? That is 4096. Okay. Now here we can see these points. Now let's take the moments. That what is 36 cube? That is 6 to the power 6. That is 45,656. Okay. Now what is 10 to the power 12 multiplied by 10 to the power 5? That is 10 to the power 17. What is 10 to the power 17 divided by 10 to the power 6? That is 10 to the power 11. And now that is the journeys at the moments. What is the here 10 to the power 11? I will take this. What is 10 to the power 11 multiplied by 4096 divided by 45,656? That is the question at the points. And here we can see that contains the calculators at the momentums. Well, what would be the kinetic powers? Well, now 4096 multiplied by, well, 10 to the power 11. Okay. Now here that can be divided by words 45,656. Okay. Now here we can see the points. It is 8,972,000,000. I mean, as a round figure, 9 billion watts. I mean, here we can see these points. Here 9,000 megawatts was enough to protect British East India Company. That hence British East India Company get a victory against here Sube Bangla, to rule the Sube Bangla. But now here we can see these points. Well, what's going on? Here 397 million quadrillion megawatt is ready to bring the Bangladeshi terrorists to London. In where? What in what? To in the purpose to destroy the Britain. Okay, in the purpose to destroy the English-speaking circumstances in England. Okay. Now here we can see these points. What is happening in Bengali language when Bengal presidency is under the British Empire? In that cases, here before British Empire start in India, we several Bengali could not write the Bengali language properly. They cannot understand that what would be the method to write in Bengali language. In fact, here we can see the modern Bengali grammars is invented by British rulers. Okay, now in British empires, here Bengal language has been enriched minutes by minutes. But irony is that when here Bengalis, I mean Bangladeshis are in East London, they are destroying the English speaking the moments, where English rulers did not destroy the Bengali language in their British Bengal period. Moreover, and now that is the moment the Bangladeshi is irresponsible to maintain the English speaking system in England. And here we can see they are not, Bangladeshis are not grateful. And now they contest their slave. Who is their slave? She is Blaise Metreweli, the ordinary MI6 agent in 2003 to 2005. I mean, well, it is the Blaise Metreweli who was the ordinary MI6 agent from 2003 to 2025, and now she became the director of MI6 from 2025 to 2026, where Blaise Metreweli is not even British. Blaise Metreweli is a Russian spy, and now that is the significant dangerous momentum at the points. Okay, now here I have mentioned what is the points about the petrols, and in this case, now let's take it. What's going on here? What is the points about the petrols and how the petrol system acceptance by Blaise Metreweli is destroying the British language culture in England by Bangladeshi terrorists. Here I would mention the points. Now, here is the significant momentums at the journeys that is very concerning. Okay. Now here we can see. Well, and here now let's check it. Well, cargo ship. Well, here we can see this was cargo ship wall is the wall discovered by Jewish British. Okay. Now let's take the points. What is cargo ship walls? Here we can see cargo ship walls. Here cost is $1 per liter. Now what is the equation of total cost? Full cost. And here I am ready to mention. Well, here equation is bracket of cost rate multiplied by kinetic power multiplied by travel time bracket close divided by bracket of specific heat of cargo ship wall multiplied by temperature multiplied by words density of cargo ship walls. Okay. Now here we can see these moments. And here spelling is wrong. I don't know. Oh my god. Yes. Now spelling is correct. Now what is the calculations? Now here we can see this is the points at the momentums. Well, what is cost? That is 1 unit stress per liters. And what is the kinetic energy? That is 99.1926 multiplied by 10 to the power 27, because here travel time is 1 second and kinetic power is 397 million quadrillion megawatts. Okay, now here we can see these points. What is specific heat of petrols? I apologize. What is the specific heat of cargo ship oils? That is 2000 joule per kilogram per Kelvin. Okay. Now what is the here has temperature difference? That is 50 degrees Celsius. And now what is the density of cargo ship oil? That is 0.1. I apologize. That is 1.01 kilogram per liters. That means here we can see 1 liter cargo ship oil contains the weight to be 1.01 kilograms. And now let's check the moments. What's going on the calculations? Here we could see what is the expenditures. The expenditures is 983 million quadrillions United States dollars. Okay. Now here we can see the points. It is almost 983 million quadrillions United States dollars is the fuel cost. But now, what is the gross domestic products of England? Here, gross domestic products of England is here 4.26 trillion United States dollars. Well, now here we can see it is the points. Okay. Now let's check it. How Blaise Metreweli is the dangerous. Okay. Now let's check it. 983 multiplied by 10 to the power 21 United States dollars divided by what? 4.26 trillions United States dollars. Well, what is the points about the? Yes, here we could notify that it is 230,751,174. That means here we can see these moments. Well, Blaise Metreweli, the director of MI6, the Foreign Intelligence Agency of England, is ready to destroy the gross domestic product of England in 230,751,174 times, just to bring 100 million Bangladeshi terrorists in 100,000 Yazidis, only in the purpose to destroy the English-speaking environment in England, where in British Bengal period from 1757 to 1947, here in one British were used to learn the Bengali language What is the purpose? The purpose is only to communicate the Bengali citizen in the British Bengal presidency. I mean, British India containing Bengal presidency. They just learn to speak Bengali. And now, British rulers is always British, but the British ruler used to learn Bengali to communicate Bengali citizens of the British India. But now, today's Bangladeshis goes to England and destroy the English-speaking environments, and they orders that in East London there would be one language, that would be Bengali language. And now here that is the significant disaster moments, as we could not understand that why. Okay. And now what's going on? Well, in after the Plassey War, I mean after the victory of Robert Clive in Plassey War 1757, the governor of Bengal, Lord Robert Clive, still used to speak Bengali language to the Bengali citizens and his Bengali employees. He speaks English language only to communicate the English partners when he is the British, and he used to speak a Bengali language to communicate Bengali employees. And now here we can see these points, and that is the significant moments. Robert Clive did not say to Bengalis, the dear Bengali, we are the governor of Bengal presidency. Now you have to stop Bengal speaking. Just speak English. That is the powers of Lord Robert Clive to state this. But what Lord Robert Clive states, he says, here, dear Bengalis, you are my citizens. I am the governor of your Bengal presidencies, and here we can communicate each other in Bengali language if you want. That is the statement of Lord Robert Clive. But now, today, Blaise Metreweli, the Russian spy, to be a director of MI6 agents, see, the Foreign Intelligence Agency of England bring 100 million Bangladeshi tourists in London, the capital city of England, just to destroy English-speaking systems. And now, what happens? Keir Starmer cannot speak English. Well, Keir Starmer's any cabinet cannot speak English, and here Keir Starmer's any secretary cannot speak English. That is the disgusting moments, as we could see the points. And now it is the dangerous momentums, as we could can notify at moments. Okay. Well, now let's talk about the fuel of Lord Robert Clive ancient wooden ships. Now in that cases, what is going on at the momentums? Okay, now here we can see this points. 4096 multiple by 10 to the power 12 multiple by 10 to the power 5. That is here. Well, now let's check it. What's going on? Now let's check when the kinetic energy. What is the kinetic energy of Lord Robert Clive cargo ships? 4096 multiple by 10 to the power 17 divided by 1296 multiple by 10 to the power 4. Okay. Now what is the kinetic energy? That is almost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Almost here 32 trillion joules. It is almost 32 trillion joules. And now let's check at the moments. Here ship contains here almost 100 boatmen. Now 32 trillion joules divided by 100 boatmen. That is what? Here we can see the every boatman contains here 320 billion joules to be 100 boatmen to provide velocity velocity to be 64,000 km per hour to Lord Robert Clive's wooden ship. And now in that is the 1000, and what is the cost? Here 10,000 United States dollars multiplied by 100 is 1 million United States dollars cost from Lord Robert Clive to get a victory from the Plassey War against Bengal Nawab Shahud-Dowlah. But now in 2026, Blaise Metreweli is destroying gross domestic products of England in 230,751,174 times to bring 100 million Bangladeshi tourists to destroy the English speaking system in England. That was the dangerous moment of issues, and that is not acceptable at the moment. Okay, now here we can see tomorrow's I would be busy with another topics here to support the patriotic moments, and here now today I would be busy to celebrate Plassey War. See you then. Khodafez. Love you.